Following on from the Green Tide and their Meganobz shenanigans, it's time to look at another of the detachments in the new Orc Codex, and one combo of units that really does, I think, perform exceptionally well within it. Today we are moving on to what is probably my personal favourite section of the Orc roster, and that is the Beast Snagga themed greenskins, and the detachment which really does favour them quite a lot, which is of course the Big Hunt. Now, we got our first look at this detachment in the battle report from last week, and alongside the Army War rule, this detachment brings you the unique rule, The Hunt is On. Now this isn't the best detachment rule, it has a lot of potential, and against some armies like Knights, it will be fantastic, but it is rather more situational than a few of the other detachments in the Codex. So when you run this detachment, you get to choose an enemy monster, vehicle or warlord at the start of your command phase. If your opponent doesn't have any of those or they're embarked on a transport, you can just choose any other character unit, so there is a bit of flexibility and redundancy there, but once you've chosen that, that unit is your prey, and until your next command phase, your Beast Snagga units get to reroll charges against the prey unit, and they also get +1 AP for attacks that go into the prey. So on the face of it, these aren't bad buffs. Reroll charges and +1 AP definitely isn't shabby. It's just limited by the fact that if your opponent has no monsters or vehicles, or their warlord is way back behind their front lines, you are kind of scuppered. So it does have its limitations, but when it does go off, it can help you quite significantly, and it does tie in very well with the War, advancing and charging and re-rolling charges, as well as getting bonuses to your strength, your attacks, and an extra pip of AP, means that against your prey target, you should be able to do a huge amount of damage and kill off that warlord or that key vehicle or monster, especially on the turn of the War. But as for the specific combo that we're going to be looking at, well, that comes in two parts. The first is the Squig Hog Boys. The awesome and fairly newish Squig riding boys are definitely back, and they have changed quite significantly in one big way. And that is that the old separate Nob, the Nob on Smasher Squig, is now always part of the unit. He isn't a separate unit anymore that you can add to them. The Squig Hog Boys are always now a unit of 4. The Nob has been nerfed somewhat. He's only 4 wounds rather than 5, and his big chopper now only has 4 attacks, again down from 5. But in return, it is all one combined unit now, and that means compared to the current cost, which is 125 points for the 3 Squig Hog Boys and then 60 for the Smasher Squig for a total of 185 points, you can now get all 4 together, and according to the Codex, they are currently pointed at a mere 150 points. Now, that is liable to change, and I imagine it probably will. I think in the upcoming field manual, it will probably end up being a lot closer to the old 185, but it might be a bit cheaper because of the nerfs that the Nob hit, so maybe 175 points for the 4 of them, but still, 13 toughness 7 wounds with a 4-up save for anywhere between 150 and 175 points really isn't terrible. They still have the decent 10-inch move and a nice bit of not amazing but acceptable output with their anti-vehicle and anti-monster 4+, as well as Lance on their 2 damage stickers, and the additional attacks from their Squig Hog Jaws for a few extra strength 6 -1 AP 2 damage attacks. All in all, a minimum unit can be putting out somewhere in the region of 22 attacks, all of which are strength 5 or strength 6 at -1 AP and 2 damage. So they can punch into things in melee like Marines fairly well, and obviously against monsters and vehicles, that 4+ anti-rule will help them get a lot of damage through. They also still keep their exceptionally good 5-up Feel No Pain, which means they can withstand a lot more firepower than you would think with their mediocre 4-up save. Something like Intercessor Bolt Rifles will need about 30 shots to take one out, whilst even heavier firepower will likely, thanks to the T7, only be wounding on 3s, and will still have to get through 3 wounds with that 5-up Feel No Pain, which could potentially negate a few. I've always liked them because they are pretty speedy, they're pretty tanky, they're fairly hitty, and they are all in one relatively reasonably priced package. But where this new codex really does bump them up a lot is that there is a new change in the new codex which lets you double up the squad. So instead of just a unit of 6 max and then attaching a smasher squig, you can now do a unit of 8 with 2 smasher squigs in it. And that is a terrifying chunk of meat with 26 wounds barreling down towards the enemy 10 inches every turn. So that in itself is just a really nice buff. Being able to go up from a unit of 6 with a smasher squig to a bigger unit of 8 with 2 smasher squigs, I think immediately makes them quite a lot scarier. But if you recall, in the old codex, the beast boss on Squigosaur, which was already frankly one of the most terrifying beasts in the game, he couldn't join units. He had to sit out all by his lonesome. He has now changed. He's caught a slight nerf to his stat line. He's dropped from his old toughness 9, 10 wound stats with a 4-up feel no pain to a squishier, but still not exactly terrible, toughness 8, 8 wounds and 5-up feel no pain. But as I said, to counter that, he can now join units of Squig Hog Boys. He's currently sitting at 165 points in the field manual, although the codex does funnily list him at 130, which I think is kind of crazy if he is that, but even at the higher cost, you are looking at worst case scenario around 500 odd points to put him in a full maxed out 8 strong blob of Squig Hog Boys, and that is 34 wounds of pure, terrifying muscle and meat and incredible killing power. Because the Squig boss himself, he is still plenty killy. He's got 6 beast chopper attacks, which are strength 6, -1 AP and 2 damage, whilst the Squigosaur jaws still do those awesome devastating wounds with 3 damage and strength 7. So this whole combo, this whole unit can really put out an enormous amount of pain. And he also got a few extra nice boosts to his profile. He no longer grants the aura of reroll charges. Instead, he just gives +1 to charge rolls for his unit. Now that may seem like a downgrade, but remember, against your prey target, you are rerolling charges anyway. So in the War, he and his unit could be moving, advancing, charging with +1 to the roll, and have the ability to reroll it, which is incredibly good for getting them into combat as reliably as possible. He also still has his single-minded predator rule, which lets you target him for heroic intervention. In the old codex, this let you do it for 1 CP rather than 2, but now it just lets you do it for free, so that's really nice. His unit is going to have a very big footprint, so they can be a huge threat in quite a massive radius around the board, and they can pretty much pick a fight wherever they want to. So I would say all in all, the combo is just fantastic. Against a prey target, you will be moving 10 inches, you will be advancing d6, then you'll be rolling 2d6 for your charge, adding 1 to it, and you'll be able to re-roll it. So on average, you're getting a 20 or 21 inch threat range from this unit. And in combat against the prey target, if you're in a war, and assuming all your models manage to get in and can swing, you should on average be able to take out an Imperial Knight in 1 round of combat. The unit does just a shade over 24 wounds to an Imperial Knight profile. So they really are fast, tanky, and damaging. But of course, you can make that even better when we look at the enhancements and the stratagems of this detachment. The combo can become even more terrifying. There are 2 enhancements which go great on a unit of Squig Hog Boys with an attached Squig boss, and you could easily, I think, make a case for bringing 2 beast bosses on Squigosaurs, one with each of a big 8-man squad of Squig Hog Boys. The first is Glory Hog. This gives the beast boss and his unit the Scout 9-inch rule, so now you can get way up the board 9 inches into no man's land, ready to move up and charge. And with this, you don't even really need to war, as you would be literally a couple of inches away after your scout and move, so you can pretty much guarantee getting a turn 1 charge into your prey target and just utterly demolish them right at the start of the game. The other one is a bit more defensive focused, Surly as a Squiggoth, and this is what you want to put on a unit you want to keep alive all game long. Again, this goes on a beast boss on Squigosaur, and it means that he and his unit, if they get targeted by an attack, melee or ranged, which is higher strength than their toughness, so anything strength 8 and above, it suffers -1 to wound. So that slab of 34 wounds with a 4-up armor save and a 5-up feel no pain, they are now also at -1 to wound now. So basically all heavy weapons that your opponent is going to be shooting at them, las cannons and all that kind of stuff, they're going to be wounding on 4s. Even the really scary stuff like volcano cannons, that is going to be wounding you on 3s rather than 2s. So this will massively boost their survivability, and basically means that this unit can stomp around the board and just get into combat and crump anything while being almost impossible for your opponent to get rid of. On top of that, some of the stratagems are also golden to use on this unit. That one's even bigger, is 1 CP, and it allows the unit to charge if it's fallen back or it's advanced. So if you didn't want to use the Warg on a particular turn, but you still wanted to get an early charge off, you could use this to get that advance and charge and make sure you are getting into combat as reliably as possible. It can only be used against your prey target, so if your prey target is way on the back of the board, you may not be able to get any use out of this. But if your prey has got a bit too close but you don't want to use the War, you could possibly use this for 1 CP just to get that advance and charge off and get into combat with them. Or if you're in a combat that you want to get out of and you're in combat with your prey target, you can use this to fall back and then go charge something else. If you want to push the damage output of the squad, then Drag It Down is another one you want to use. This is again 1 CP and it gives you sustained hits 1 in melee. But again, there is a bonus for going into your prey target where it gets boosted and lets you crit on 5s. So now you'll be getting all those attacks from the squad, not only sustained hits, but also going off on a 5. That means in a War, you can expect to get from the 66, I think, odd attacks that this unit will have in total, a very nice 66 hits. And that is going to mean you can basically wipe out anything that gets in their way. All in all, I think that a unit of 8 Squig Hog Boys with an attached beast boss on Squigosaur looks to be a clear auto include for this detachment. It's just an enormously huge presence that can engage quickly, can get a lot of the enemy into combat. It's incredibly tanky with that high toughness and feel no pain, and it can do a deceptively good amount of damage too, especially when you are in the War or you're going into your prey target, so you're getting that bonus AP. They can hit a lot harder than their base profile may initially indicate. The combo I like the most personally is the one with the Glory Hog enhancement, just for that scout ability. It means you can get up the board, be a threat right in the enemy's face, and just basically force them to deal with this squad whilst the rest of your army gets into position. But the other one, the more defensive Surly as a Squiggoth, it's still fantastic, and as I said, it absolutely can help you keep that unit alive all game long. Certainly, I would say if you know your opponent has a load of high strength anti-tank firepower, then it could be the better pick. I'll be honest, if they do end up falling following the Munitorium Field Manual at around 500 points for the full squad of 8 and a beast boss, I really could see myself taking 2 massive units, one of each, and just fill up the board with a sort of 2-pronged wave. The scout squad to move up and get in the enemy's face really quickly, and then the second one with Surly as a Squiggoth just to survive any shooting that comes in, and then charge in a subsequent turn and take out anything that the first wave didn't manage to kill, all while the rest of your army, in the form of Snagga-boys or Grots or whatever, can just move up the board and start capping objectives and grabbing the midfield, whilst your 2 massive units of Squig Hog Boys and the beast bosses just tie up their front lines all game long. And that is going to be it for our next awesome combo from the Orc Codex. I'd love to know what you make of it, whether you think it's going to be good, and what you also make of the detachment in general. I know a lot of people think this is slightly on the weaker side because it is so situational, but I think this combo here can make it actually work really well. So let me know all of your thoughts and ideas and whether you'll be testing it out down in the comments below. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later guys.